It's been a few days since I've seen David. Or at least I think so. It's hard to tell night from day anymore. It's always so dark. All of the plant life is dead. The ground is desolate. It's from all the acid, I know. The acid those things keep. I'm sorry. Let me back up a little. David was my boyfriend, I suppose. We had never actually made it official, but there was a clear spark between us. We'd kissed once or twice. It had been magical. Neither of us seemed ready for the commitment that came with being in a relationship, though. I just lost my father, and David seemed like more of a free spirit, not wanting to be tied down by anything, or anyone. It started in the city close to us. We live in a rural area, so our water supply either comes from wells or the city. On the morning of January 3rd, the news issued a boil order for all of our water. Of course, those with wells didn't have to follow this order. We were told that one of the factories in the city had had an incident, and that their chemical waste was now leaking into the water supply. However, they assured us that it was nothing serious, and that boiling would eliminate any threats that chemicals may pose to humans. Regardless, David and I began buying bottled water. We had talked about it over the phone and had decided it would be safer. The news reports came about a week later. People were becoming violently ill, regardless of whether or not they had boiled their water. We were told to buy bottled water, which was just as well for David and me. 3 days after this, we learned that the sickness was apparently contagious. If we experienced any symptoms, nausea, fever, vomiting, and so on, we were to stay inside until they passed, effectively quarantining ourselves. The first death occurred on the 22nd. It was a young boy, I believe he was 9, named Aaron McCain. He had been fighting the illness for a week, and his tiny body had finally succumbed. He looked awful, pale and malnourished from the constant vomiting the disease brought with it. The city and the surrounding rural areas went silent when the story aired. He had been so small, with a whole life ahead of him. Then, on live television, Aaron sat back up. At first, I assumed it to be the effects of rigor mortis, as the heart monitor continued to display a flat line. However, this was not the case. Abject terror gripped me as I watched this emaciated, almost inhuman figure open its mouth and begin vomiting a viscous black liquid that slowly ate away at anything it touched. As it did, a disgusting, choked gurgling sound emitted from its mouth. The doctors and nurses in the room all gasped in horror, and one of them even fainted. Their colleagues were forced to watch in horror as the acid-like substance creeped ever closer to her body. Upon touching her, she did not begin to dissolve as expected. Rather, the substance seeped into her skin. We all watched in fascinated horror as she sat up and began vomiting the same liquid. The broadcast ended when the room was filled with the putrid solution. The remaining doctors and nurses had fled, along with the cameraman who did not get far before the acid claimed him as well. The broadcast ended because it ate through the camera, letting the video cut back to the newsroom. The two anchors sat in stunned silence. The police attempted to close off the building to no avail. As for myself, I was too frightened to leave the house or stay alone, so David came over. I was honestly relieved to see him. His truck was piled high with boxes of canned food and water. "What are you doing?" I asked him. "I came prepared." He answered with a slight grin. "This isn't some kind of zombie apocalypse movie, David. This is serious." "I am serious." Against my better judgment, I helped him unload the boxes. Underneath the boxes and the tailgate were a few 2x4s. I looked over at David quizzically. "You're not boarding up my windows, David." "Preparation, Alice," he tried to argue. "No way. Besides, if those things even get close, what makes you think a few pieces of wood will stop them?" He went quiet after that, and I knew I had won. For the next few days, we did little more than eat and watch the news. I didn't sleep much. Every time I did, I would see that little boy vomiting that black stuff. Pure agony in his eyes. There was agony, but it was somehow lifeless, as if he had no soul. After a few days, they were everywhere. People stopped leaving their houses. The airways went dead, and the electricity went out due to the creatures destroying power lines. It was at this time that David's preparation stopped being stupid. We had several flashlights and packages of batteries, even candles. We huddled together under blankets, listening to the sheer, maddening silence of the outside world. Late that night, I was awakened by a soft but constant gurgling noise. My eyes widened in horror as I realized what was going on. They were here. They were coming. Quickly, I rolled over and began shaking David violently. "Wake up," I pleaded, "wake up." It took quite a bit of effort to get any response from him at all. After a while, he sat up groggily. What is it?" I placed my fingers to my lips, silently telling him to listen. It was getting louder, closer. David cursed and jumped to his feet, grabbing the shotgun he had brought with him. Before, I'd thought he was being paranoid and overdoing it, but now it felt like our only line of defense. I prayed that his aim was good. I watched out the window as David went to confront the horrid creatures. I saw him take aim and miss. My heart sank. With his second shot, he blew one of their heads clean off. It didn't falter. Black acid spurted from the stump of its neck, showering the surrounding area as it continued to walk forward. David shot again, this time into its stomach. Once more, the thick liquid seeped from its wound. It was completely unaffected. David shouted in terror and began backing away toward the house. He tried shooting at its legs to stop it, but that didn't work either. It only caused more acid to spurt from the thing's body. It was like it never ended. He turned toward the window, and I heard him shout, "Get out of the house! I don't think I can stop it." Where was I supposed to go? They had infested the city at this point, so no place was safe. Perhaps the woods beyond my house would lead to some sort of safety. But I had to pass that monster to even get close. Maybe if I ran. Hesitantly, I opened the door and stepped into the cold night. My flashlight cast a narrow beam in front of me that told me where I was going. I'd been too frightened to grab anything else. Suddenly, one dropped from a higher place in front of me. I have no idea where it came from, even to this day. My scream didn't faze it, but it did let David know that I was in distress. I began backing away slowly, my eyes locked on the figure. Something came from the left and tackled it to the ground. I saw the two figures roll around for a moment, before I came to the shocking realization that one of them was David. My eyes went wide. "Go!" I heard him yell. "Get out of here!" I tried, but my legs remained in place. I was frozen in fear, and my body disobeyed every command it was given. After what seemed like hours, David and the thing stood back up again. I stood there, my eyes fixated on the man I loved as he opened his mouth and began vomiting black ooze. At that moment, all function returned to my body. I ran faster than I ever have in my entire life, straight into those woods. But I had forgotten about the river that runs behind my house, the river whose water is now a sickening black. I had no choice but to begin following it downstream. The trees and bushes became more and more scarce, until there were none at all. So here I am, lost and alone. I have no idea where I am or where I am going. I haven't slept in a long time. Sometimes I swear I can hear gurgling noises coming from behind me. What's worse, I'm so thirsty. Maybe one little drink can't hurt. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed today's narration. I want to give a huge thanks to last month's $5 and up patrons: Starless, Tara, William L, Linda H, Christopher B, Hunter D, Letty M, Ronnie K, Lake S, Meg C, Tim D28, Mr. Creeps, and all of the $2 and up patrons on screen as well. All of your support makes these narrations possible, and I appreciate it a ton. If you'd like to join these lovely ghouls, I'd appreciate it if you check out my Patreon page. For just $1 a month, you'll get an exclusive narration that will never, ever be uploaded to my channel. Usually, one a bit too extreme for YouTube. So that's at least one extra video every month for just $1, if not more. For $2 a month, you'll get thanked in the end scroll of every video, and for just $5 a month, I'll shout you out at the end of every video personally. You also get exclusive Discord roles for those perks as well. If you'd like to chat with me for a bit, you can join me on a monthly live stream for just $10 a month and get a signed merch sticker for $25 a month. And if you're in the market for some horrifying shirts and hoodies, you can head on over to my Teespring store in the description as well. And don't forget to follow me on Twitter at @SecondClancy. I want to thank you all for watching, and I will see you all next time. Have a good night, everybody. Cheers.